Please be seated. Before I begin, I want to remind you that we're starting to do a little experiment after church this morning. And so those who want to can grab coffee and some treats from coffee hour, or we can bring you one if that's easier. And we'll gather here back in the church for a little mini sermon discussion. This was Sarah's idea because she mentioned she often wants to talk about the sermon afterwards. And I quickly agreed because I would like to hear people's thoughts about my sermon. And that allows me to keep growing as a preacher for you. So that was the inspiration for this little discussion. No one will be offended if you would rather stay and just eat and hang out in the kitchen. That is holy too. Sometimes I will probably hang out in coffee hour because that's an important place to be. So this is just an experiment, and Mary Lynn, who is our junior warden, often says, we just keep learning how to do something. So we will iterate this little sermon discussion if there's interest and see how it goes. Maybe we'll have a table in the classroom, maybe we'll do a quick Zoom at a different time, who knows. But that's the plan. Okay, announcement over, sermon beginning. Once there was a man who said such amazing things and did such wonderful things that people just had to follow him. Those are the words that begin the Godly Play Sunday school stories about Jesus. People just had to follow him. I taught the New Testament at Episcopal Day School to 7th graders. And before that, in their sequence, I taught the same students world religions and Hebrew scriptures. From those classes, I developed an image of God as a cloud with a question mark inside. And I would draw that on the board. The image is kind of biblical, and it's very mystical, and it works great with kids to deconstruct the old man in the sky version of God that everyone sort of picks up somehow from culture, even if no one ever teaches them that. And so we called this symbol the mystery of God. And then when we got to studying Jesus in 7th grade, I would draw him on the whiteboard, robes and sandals, long hair and a beard, with that cloud and question mark inside of him. And we talked about what would it be like to meet a person who has the mystery of God inside them, who said such amazing things and did such wonderful things that people just had to follow him. But we live in a different era. We never got to see that mysterious love in the flesh. And to be honest, if I met a person that compelling in 2026, my modern defenses would go up, and I'd probably turn around and walk in the other direction. I am skeptical, and I am distrusting of too much charisma. I don't know if you can relate to that. But charisma seems to be as corrupting as other kinds of power. How did you become a follower of Jesus? Why do we, in this modern world, choose to be followers of the human being who made the mystery of God incarnate in the world long ago? If we were those two disciples of John and we started trailing after Jesus and he turned and asked, "What are you looking for?" what would you say? What are you looking for when you come here every Sunday? If you've been here for a while, what were you looking when you first came? And do you still find it here? Has it changed over time? What made you a follower of Jesus when you first claimed faith as your own? This is my answer. As a kid, my parents took me to church, and like every kid, I got bored, at times at least. But deep down, I absorbed something of that mysterious love shining out of the stories, the rituals, and even some of the people. I was a childhood mystic, and that love stayed with me. It's something that I can still find in a church service, or while sitting quietly, or when I encounter a moment of beauty in the world that helps me lose myself in wonder. It's a deep certainty that I, along with everyone, is completely loved, and that love holds us always and forever. That love demands to be enacted, and mysticism does not lay out a way of life or offer a sense of community. What I seek and find in church, separate from that, is also a call to moral life and the opportunity to serve others and to reflect on my actions in conversation with the Christian tradition. And I find a sense of belonging in Christian community. And lastly, in the sacred stories of God's love and faithfulness to humanity, I find hope, which I desperately need whenever I think about what's happening in our world. It turns out that spiritual seeking is good for us. Social scientists tell us that these very things, community, hope, moral reflection, are why spirituality makes human beings happier and healthier. But we aren't here at church just for the health benefits. We could all eat a kale smoothie and go do something else. What are you seeking when you come here? Would anybody like to speak up? What are you seeking? Or you can share it in the discussion later.
Closer connection with God.
Community of fellow travelers.
Family. Inclusivity that's demonstrated. Spark of growth. Reflection.
Compassion. Peace.
Maybe the longing, the thing that draws you, is itself so deep and mysterious that it feels beyond words. We see that in our gospel reading today. When John calls Jesus the Lamb of God, he's mashing up some ancient symbols: the sacrificial goat and the Passover lamb, the scapegoat, and the Passover lamb. And he's doing this to say something radical and new. Jesus is the one who will finally restore the human connection with God. For John, sin is not breaking the rules. Sin isn't like one thing that you did wrong. Sin is the state of being separated from the divine. And so when he says, the Lamb of God takes away the sin of the world, what he means is that Jesus brings freedom and unites us with God. And when John the Baptist testifies to his disciples that God has revealed to him Jesus is this Lamb of God, they notice Jesus and they decide to follow him. When he turns and asks them, "What are you seeking?" they do not outline my list. "Oh, thanks for asking. We're seeking hope, community, and moral guidance." They say, "Where are you staying?" In other words, can we come along? All they want is to be with him. Because to be with him is to be in the awesome and mysterious and powerfully loving presence of God. And this is the longing of every human heart. Since that mythical expulsion from the Garden of Evil, the origin story of our separation and alienation from God. Above all, this is what they and we are seeking: union, reunion, to come along and simply be with God, to feel our lives, our purpose, grounded in God's peace, the peace that passes understanding. And in that, to find hope. Of course, even the holiest people do not feel united with God all the time, in every breath. But if we feel it here at Holy Family sometimes, then we also long to share it with others. Because the nature of this mystery is expansive. It cannot be contained inside just our heart. It spills over. We want people to come to this church to experience the wonder and the mystery of God's powerful love, that inclusion demonstrated that Beth described. God's powerful love, which we feel as an overflowing fount of every blessing, to feel peace and hope even when things are bleak. We want people to know that this church is a place where they can find the joy of their longing hearts. And that means we are called to testify, as John does today in today's gospel, to tell people, hey, something special is happening here, and you can be a part of it. This year, I have worked with many of you to sow seeds of connection with our preschool, the Holy Family Children's Center. We've gotten to know parents. I've read to the children weekly, and we've sent many kinds of invitations. On Christmas Eve, amidst that driving storm, I saw a car pull up. I was standing right here and I saw a car pull up. 3 boys got out, followed by their parents. And I thought I recognized them from the school, and my heart was like, yes, somebody came. But then the rain picked up and the wind blew, and they got back in their car and they drove away. They did not come in that night. Maybe they came close, drawn by a longing for love and peace that they may not even be aware of. And since then, as I've reached out to the preschool parents, inviting conversations with our vital and thriving preschool relationships team, that includes Kathy and Susan Pike, I've received some warm responses from those invitations, and even a donation to Holy Family with a very cute little Holy Family hand-drawn card from one of the preschoolers in it. Feels like some seeds are sprouting. This is our challenge in the season after Epiphany, to keep our Holy Family light burning so brightly that it cuts through even the heaviest rain, if we're going to have any more this year, and that it cuts through all the business and noise of our culture. We aren't called merely to open our doors. We are called to radiate so much warmth that when people see our little church, they feel an irresistible pull to find the joy of their longing hearts. And when they walk in to our little church, we are called to embrace them with God's irresistible welcome. This is the holy work of being an outward-focused church, not just feeding ourselves spiritually, but setting a table so inviting that our neighbors know there is a seat waiting for them and that the food is delicious.